welcome you back to Veteach channel. So continuation to our discussion for the project management. So we have seen about two kinds of the networking tools. One is the critical path, the CPM, and another one is the program evaluation review technique. So now let us see the benefits of these approaches, either CPM or network diagram. Consistent framework for planning, scheduling, monitoring and controlling of the project. So in project management, whatever the activities that are taking, so we will be going to make an effective plan with the help of the network diagram, and we can schedule the activities in a perfect order, and we will monitor the performance or the process of the execution, and we will be going to control these activities effectively in the project. Shows interdependence of all tasks, work packages and work units. So the interdependency of the activity. So for one particular activity, there are some predecessor activities as well as there are some successor activities. So the predecessor activities are in the sense, so the activity which is supposed to be completed earlier, then only the current activity will start, and once the current activity is completed, then only the successor activity will start. So these kind of interdependencies that we will be going to understand. Helps proper communication between departments and functions. Means in a real-time environment, various departments are going to take part in completion of this particular project. So we will be identifying the departments which are involved in this particular process, and we ensure that the communication reaches to this particular department about the commencement of that particular task related to their particular department. So this is another thing. Determines expected project completion date. So through this particular approach, by using the critical path, we will be going to calculate the expected time of completion of the complete project. This identifies so-called critical activities which can delay the project completion time. So the activities which are lying in the critical path, we used to say those are the critical activities. So these critical activities are going to show more impact on completion time of this particular project. So that is the reason the project managers, they are supposed to lay more emphasis or focus on the execution of these critical activities without any kind of delay in the scheduled time. So continuation to this, even we can see identified activities with the slacks that can be delayed for specified periods without penalty, or from which the resources may be temporarily borrowed. Means slacks are the float. So these are the activities which are non-zero values. Means so the critical activities, all the times the float or slack value is going to be 0, but the non-critical value activities, the float value is going to be non-zero. Means even if the non-critical activity is delayed because of any reason, so that particular delay as for the float value, so if it is below that particular value or below that particular time, so the project completion will not be hampered. Determines the dates on which tasks may be started or must be started if the project is to stay in schedule. So within this particular time frame, so even if any of the non-critical activity work is delayed in completion of that particular predecessor activity, but it is not going to show any impact on the final completion of the project. Shows which tasks must be coordinated to avoid resource or timing conflicts. Shows which tasks may run in parallel to meet project completion date. Means the tasks which are supposed to be in the sequence or the tasks which are supposed to be in parallel, that we will be going to understand through the benefits. The importance of the PERT system is reduction in cost. So by using the PERT system, where we are using 3 times of the time estimates: optimistic time, the most likely time and the pessimistic time. So with the help of these 3 alternative time frames that we take into consideration, we will be going to calculate the estimated time as the optimistic time TO plus the 4 times of the most likely time plus the pessimistic time whole divided by 6. So almost we are coming to a deterministic time estimation, through which you are going to reduce the cost as well as you will be going to save the time. Determination of activities. So you will be identifying in the entire project, so what are the different activities with the time calculation. Then elimination of risk in complex activities. Means the activities which are lying in the critical path. So we used to say that they are very critical activities, and we should ensure that there should not be any kind of a complexity arise in execution of those particular activities. If any such kind of probabilistic situation is there in the critical activities, so we will be handling that particular activity by adding some additional resources taking from the non-critical activities which are having some float value, the extra cushion time. So we will be taking up the resources from the non-critical activity and adding to the critical activity, and we will be going to eliminate that particular complexity. And this particular PERT system is going to be flexible in nature, evaluation of alternatives, useful in effective control, useful in decision making, and useful is research work. So these are the important related to the PERT system. So let us see even the disadvantages. So here this emphasizes on activity time. To its operation, PERT is not useful when no reasonable estimates of time schedule can be made. Another disadvantage has been its emphasis on time only but not on costs. So PERT technique, it is exclusively focusing on the time, not in terms of the cost. So where we are not giving any importance to the cost, but the emphasis is always on the completion of the duration of that particular activity. So this may lead to the not recognizing about the importance of the cost. So the cost of the project may go high. So this is the disadvantage. And before we close this particular topic, even the topics which we discussed earlier, once again just I am recollecting. One is the project crashing. Crashing means shortening the duration of activities because some activities were delayed or client is willing to pay more for earlier completion. So if the client is ready to pay more amount for completion of this particular task before the time, so such kind of situations you can go for crashing, or some of the activities if they are delayed, so such kind of situations, so the crashing may happen. Crashing changes the schedule for remaining activities. Whenever the crashing is taking place, automatically it is going to show its reflection in the schedule of the other activities. It has impact on schedules for all subcontractors, often introduces unanticipated problems, and the faster an activity is completed, the more it costs. So generally when you are going to complete the project in 10 times, but if the client is asking you to complete in 5 days, so you have to deploy additional resources and you have to spend more. So automatically the cost of the project will be escalated. There is always lower bound on task duration. So task duration all the times in the crashing scenario, we will be going to reduce the overall project completion time from the given 10 weeks to 7 weeks or 8 weeks like. So here the process of accelerating a project is referred to as crashing. Accelerating in the sense increasing the speed. Crashing a project relates to resource commitment. The more resources expended, the faster the project will finish. Earlier, we were employing only 4 people for completion of that particular task, but now you are adding 3 more. So altogether 7 people they are going to work on that particular task. So they will be going to complete it in time, but the cost will be increased. There are several reasons for the crash. Initial schedule was too optimistic, means earlier while we were planning this particular project, we were too optimistic, means taking everything on a positive side, but in reality that may not happen so. So such kind of situations we have to go for the crashing. Then market needs change and the project is in demand earlier than anticipated, means the market needs change. Like suppose let me take the example of the vaccination related to the corona pandemic. So for this particular problem, so in the earlier times when any vaccination is supposed to be invented, it takes years together of the time, but the current situation, the market, it is demanding for a yearly conclusion in the form of vaccination to this particular disease. So here we are employing more amount of resources like maybe the money or the investment or the additional resources, and we are working hard day and night to find out a solution. So such kind of situations also the project will be crashed. The project has slipped considerably behind schedule. Whenever if the project is delayed because of any other reason, such kind of situations, to speed up we will be going to go for the crash. Then there are contractual late penalties, means if any penalties are there because of the contract, like suppose you have given a contract for completion of this particular project within given time, but if the project is delayed at the closure of this particular time, you are identifying that you cannot able to complete this particular given project in the time and you are supposed to pay the penalty. So to avoid that particular kind of situation, you are going to speed up the project by adding additional resources. So this is also a part of crashing. So the project crashing has time cost or trade-off. So time cost trade-off overview that we will be going to understand through this crashing. Project duration can be reduced by assigning more resources to project activities. So project duration, if you want to reduce, you have to add the resources. However, doing this increases project cost. As you are adding the resources, automatically the cost of the project will go high. Decision is based on analysis of trade-off between time and cost. So though in the PERT technique you are not giving more emphasis on the cost, but doesn't mean that all the times you are focusing only on time but not cost. If the time cost is escalating on the higher side, which is unbearable for you, so you cannot complete the project. So all the times we have to find out a trade-off situation between the time and the cost. So that is very much can be taken up while you are going for crashing of that particular project. Project crashing is a method for shortening project duration by reducing one or more critical activities to a time less than normal activity. So the critical activity elements, whichever they are there, like suppose one critical activity element, it takes some 10 weeks of the time. So by crashing it, that particular activity from 10 weeks to 8 weeks, you are going to reduce the overall project time. So that way you will be going to handle the time cost trade-off. So this is about the project PERT approach. So now we will move to the next part, but before this let me stop it here, where we have seen about the benefits or the advantages with the CPM and PERT approach, as well as the exclusive benefits that we have with the PERT system, and even we discussed about the crashing, the project crashing. So project crashing is very much possible when you want to complete the project before the scheduled time, or if any delay is happening and you want to meet the deadline. So by adding additional resources, you will be going to meet that particular deadline. So such kind of scenarios we used to call it as crashing. So with this, let us stop it here and we will move to the next topic. So thank you.